Good morning, good afternoon, or whatever time it is there in Columbus, Ohio. My name is Anderson Wilder. I'm a friend of Jukka Pancake, and I am in Mars, or the Mars Desert Research Station. That's where we're pretending we're on Mars. So, I'm going to walk you around, because you guys had some questions about that, and we'll check out some of the stuff that we have going on here in the hat. So this here, real quick, is what it looks like from above. And I'm going to take you around so you can actually see where all these things are. So, this here is the common space, common area. This is...
Hi, I'm Renee, and I'm getting ready to make dinner on Mars. Would you like some freeze-dried raspberries?
Raspberries, people. Who loves raspberries?
Or maybe some dehydrated vegetables?
Okay, I definitely love those. Those are pretty good.
Hello, my name is Carmen. I'm from Mexico and I'm part of the crew. And I was just finishing using this 3D printer, which is actually really cool. We can make things like this or like this. A rocket with some stars. How cool is that?
You see that, guys? So instead of printing something flat, you can print something 3D. So you can print all your toys from a printer.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
I'm feeling pretty tired. I think I'm gonna go lay down in my bunk. I don't have very much space here on Mars. It's very small, but it does the job.
Yeah, see, so this is what the room looks like. At least one of the rooms. We started in my room, which is, I think, even smaller. But that's okay. So, like I said, we're here in the common area. Let's do a giant circle. That's a room up there. Whoever wants, like, sleeping on the top bunk, that's the place to go. And over here is the kitchen. So, as Renee said, she's about to start cooking something. I don't know what.
Maybe some potatoes or some chicken soup.
Here you go. Potatoes, chicken soup. And so we have a stove here, which I'm sure you guys are all familiar with, in the fridge, which I know you guys are familiar with. And then we have a cabinet full of food.
We have even more freeze-dried vegetables. Kale, cauliflower, broccoli.
Broccoli. Trees with cheese, guys. Trees with cheese.
Everything we eat we have to add water to because it costs a lot of fuel to get food into space, and if you make it lighter by taking the water out, you spend less fuel.
See, so that is what the astronauts do on the space station. That's what they've always done that. All the way back to Apollo on the shuttle and the space station, astronauts have taken up freeze-dried or dehydrated food. Here's some of the other food we have. We have a sink. There, we have a tank of water. So I know how some of you guys love to run the water while you're brushing your teeth or washing your hands. Well, we can't do that here because otherwise we will run out of water and then we won't have anything to drink or make our food with or wash our hands or flush the toilet. Water's pretty important. Just saying. So, we're going down these steps here. Pretty dangerous. These are not stairs that you want to run down or push your siblings down. Here's a lab area. Pretty industrial looking. Oh, and look, there's Renee again.
Who likes science? On Mars, science is very important. We have to grow our own food. So take a look at our mini greenhouse where we're growing cabbage, radishes, and bean sprouts.
Ooh, purple light.
Pretty soon we'll be able to eat some of these radishes.
Now, Renee, will we actually eat those?
I want to.
Okay.
I like radishes.
That sounds like a plan to me then. So we'll just wait here a couple more days until they grow, and then we'll eat them.
You can also look at life science experiments under this cool microscope. We have an incubator for growing our samples. Who's ever seen a Mars rock? Pretty cool stuff. We like to study geology here, and look at how rocks were formed and what the different minerals are that they're made of. We also analyze the soil. We got some pretty cool rocks that we can break down and study really, really small pieces of the soil. And sometimes we might find a micrometeorite, a tiny, tiny piece of iron that came from space and landed on the Earth.
Okay, so now you guys, I'm going to take you over. Oh, that is a heater. It's really hot. You don't want to get near that. Take you over to, this is the engineering space, what I'm in charge of. So I'm the crew engineer. So this is just some stuff. This is a toolbox and some tools. This is the battery and battery charger. You've probably seen some of this stuff in your parents' house, in the garage or in the basement. This is what you use to fix stuff. Now here we have the bathroom. Yeah, it's just a normal bathroom, just like you guys have at home. Except, like I said before, we have to save water. So we don't always flush the toilet after we use it. However, that's not the most sanitary thing. So you guys should make sure you definitely flush the toilet. And here, you have the shower. But again, we have to save water. So we use, sometimes, we can use a bucket and a cup. Kind of like how your parents used to wash you guys in the bathtub. They would fill a cup up with water, pour it over your head. You might have seen them do that with your siblings also. And this here is an airlock that goes to the outside, but we don't go out there without our spacesuits on. So I'm going to take you to the place where I spend a lot of my time, which is the EVA room, which stands for extravehicular activity. That's whenever you leave your spacecraft that you're in, you are going on an EVA, or an extravehicular activity. And so therefore you need to get in a spacesuit, which is kind of a spacecraft in and of itself. So here Renee is showcasing off to you our helmet, one of our helmets. We have a couple of them. She's trying to try on some gloves. These gloves are pretty thick, kind of like your winter gloves, but they help us stay safe when we go out on the Mars surface and keep air in. And here's the main airlock that we go out, and that's the outside door. You can't go out there without your spacesuit on. And here we have a bucket and shovel that we use to pick up samples of dirt that we study when we're out on our EVAs. Now, depending on how I edit this video, I will either show you the EVA that I go on every day, either before or after this section. So, here's Renee trying on one of the spacesuits, or at least the spacesuit backpacks that we wear. Look at that. It's pretty cool, eh? Really makes you feel like an astronaut. It does. Believe you me. Every time I go outside, I feel like an astronaut.
You also need to have some radios to communicate with the person that stays here in the habitat. It's for safety and to communicate where you are, what you're doing, and what the status of the mission is.
That's right, you guys. So you have to stay in contact. I'm sure you've probably heard your parents say that you need to stay within eyesight or calling distance when you go outside and play. Well, we do the same thing, just with more sophisticated technology, like the radios.
You have a microphone here, blah, blah, blah. You have the audio here, and the radio. Very important.
Okay, you guys. So that is it for right now. Like I said, I will take you out on an EVA. I just came back from one, so I do one every morning to check on, to make sure the habitat is running the way it needs to be, to make sure that we all survive. So tomorrow morning I will take you guys out on that. Okay? So thanks for joining us. I'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, you guys. So, sorry, I forgot to answer your questions during the first part of the video. So because I went through it kind of fast. So I'm going to go ahead and answer the questions that Miss Heidlebaugh, and correct you kids, tell me if I said her name wrong, okay? But I'm going to go ahead and she passed me some questions that you guys had, so I'm going to go ahead and try to answer them. So your first one is, how will we or the astronauts get to Mars? Well, pretty much you will have a spaceship, kind of like the space shuttle, something like the space shuttle. It'll probably look more like the Apollo spacecraft. And they will launch from Earth, and then they will go into what we call a Hohmann's transfer orbit. And that will allow them to get to Mars in just about 6+ months. So 6 to 9 months it'll take the astronauts to get to Mars. And that is important because you don't want the astronauts to go crazy while they're in space, or also be exposed to too much radiation coming from the sun. So that is how they will get to Mars. Well, when that's going to happen, NASA's talking about doing it in the 2030s, so in another 15 years. So you guys would be just about 20 or so, and just going to college. So about then, that's when NASA plans to take astronauts to Mars. However, Elon Musk, who owns SpaceX, which you may or may not have heard of, is talking about getting people there by 2025. So we'll have to see about that. Your next question, where will the astronauts land? Well, that depends on a number of different factors, but they will land in a spot that the engineers and scientists deem the most viable for research, and to be the warmest spot on Mars, and to have the most access to water. Because as you may or may not have heard, we have found evidence of flowing water on Mars. So, and that is from Curiosity and Opportunity, the two rovers that are still working on Mars. So where they land will all depend on what they're trying to aim for. The right temperature, the right science objectives, and the right amount of water, more than likely. So how will they take off and get back to Earth? So I'm not sure if any of you have seen the movie The Martian. If you have not, it's really good. The book is even better. But what they did in The Martian is that they had another spaceship. They flew to Mars in one spaceship, but they already had another spaceship on Mars waiting for them. And when they were done with their mission on Mars, they then got in that second spaceship and launched off the planet and met up with a bigger spaceship, and then they came back to Earth. And then when they do that, they will come back to Earth, get back in Earth orbit, like the space station we have now, or the space shuttle, and then they will come back into the atmosphere and land. So that is more or less the gist of how they will get back to Earth. I think the question also asked whether or not they would land in the water or on land. Right now, the Orion spacecraft, or the MPCV, the multi-purpose crew vehicle that NASA is designing with the SLS, the Space Launch System rocket, which should be the biggest rocket in the history of man. They are planning on the Orion to land in the water, just like the Apollo and the Gemini and the Mercury. However, SpaceX has the plan to land their capsule on land. So it will come down and land just like the first stage of their rocket that they just successfully landed after it came from space. It launched up to space, dropped off its cargo, and then landed back down, where it pretty much close enough to where it took off from. So either one of those two options could be viable or useful, either on land or in water. Both of them have their pros and cons, so it would all depend on what is the cheapest and the most viable for the department or organization that is trying to bring people or supplies back. So your other question is, what do we know about the new planet? Well, I know a lot of things have come out about a new 9th planet out past Pluto. I know a good number of it has come out since I've been locked inside this habitat, and then other information came out a bit before I came here. As far as I know, it's still theoretical, which means it's imaginable, it's possible, but it's not, we haven't seen it, and we don't have it in our hands. We can't touch it, and we haven't seen it. But from everything that the mathematicians and the scientists have said, it should exist. And so for that reason, I'm very excited because I love planets, and other things in space I love studying and reading about. So what I do recall hearing is that this planet, the possible planet that they're talking about, is, what, 5 times further than Pluto, which you should know now is a dwarf planet, not an actual planet. That happened in 2006, probably long before you guys were born. But Pluto is now a dwarf planet, along with Ceres and Eros in the solar system, and a couple of other things. But this new 9th planet should be about 5 times further than Pluto, so at its closest point, which means that's 200 AU. An AU is an astronomical unit, and an astronomical unit is one distance between the Sun and Earth. So that distance on average is about 93 million miles. And so that one distance at 93 million miles counts as 1 AU. And Pluto is 40 AU away. And this new 9th planet should be about 200 AU away at its closest point. I believe it goes out as far as 1,000 AU at its furthest point, at its apogee. So, I don't know. I look forward to reading more about it when I come back to Earth. And but I am really excited to hear more about this planet. So what are we doing to help get astronauts to Mars, or help get people to Mars? Well, what we're doing here in this habitat, like I showed you around, and we mentioned, we are doing plant experiments that they're also doing on the ISS right now, or the International Space Station, the one where all the astronauts are up in space at. We're also studying meteorites, and just the fact that we are here practicing operations, practicing things that would need to be done on Mars. That is our way of helping. That is our way of doing a tiny little bit to help astronauts get to Mars. I mean, there are lots of people around the world. NASA, which is America's space agency, CSA, Canada's space agency, JAXA, Japan's, Roscosmos, which is Russia's, ESA, which is all of Europe's space agencies. Every one of them, and all the scientists and professors at different universities and colleges, are all doing research to help get people to Mars and back to Earth. Now, have I ever been to space? Or am I going? No, I have not been to space yet. To date, I believe because they just launched up a new British astronaut, there have been approximately, which is about, not an exact number, but about 540 people who have gone to space since the beginning of the space age, which started in 1957 with the launch of Sputnik by the Soviet Union, or what we now call Russia. So since 1957, which was, see, I can't do the math off the top of my head. It was 2007 is 50 years. So 59 years ago. 59 years ago, the Soviet Union launched Sputnik, and that started the space age. Since then, only about 540 people have been to space, out of 7 billion plus people on the planet. That's 7 billion with a B. So that is a very tiny fraction of the amount of people that are alive right now. Not speaking of the people who are alive before us, who have gone to space. So, no, unfortunately, I've not had the opportunity to go to space. I would love to, if given the chance. If given the chance, I would go in a heartbeat. But I have not had the opportunity to go as of yet. So, we'll see about that. NASA is hiring for new astronauts. Who knows? I may apply for that and get selected. So we'll see. Now, again, if you guys have any more questions or want to see anything else in the habitat, any more of the experiments or anything like that, then please talk to your teacher and give us your questions, and I'll try to answer as many of them as I can. Okay, thanks. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.